Hello, all of you beautiful hive scum eager to serve the four-armed emperor. Welcome to another episode of the Astromech Show. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Myrid Cults of the Genestealer Cults. And while I'm talking about the Myrid Cults of the Genestealer Cults, also on the screen there, we're going to be building some Neophytes using the Orlock Gang box from Necromunda, the Brood Brothers sprue kit, and some bits from an Acolyte set. So there you have it. We're doing this because I don't necessarily love the Neophyte kit, and also because the campaign that I am currently running, we have reached a crucial junction for our Genestealer Cult player, and I think it will be fun if she has some cool looking Neophytes. She is attempting to sort of wrestle herself away from the thralls of her cult patriarch, and in doing so she is attempting to enlist the help of some Harlequins and some Trukari that have been meddling about as the sort of NPCs in the game. So just we're going to talk real quick about some of the stuff that's going on in this kit bash here. So we're going to try and make the seismic cannon using that harpoon gun. So we're going to cut away that spool, and we're going to cut away parts of the harpoon itself. And we're going to use a drill from an Acolyte squad. So you can see it there. And then we're also going to use part of the heavy rock cutter. Now, this is the first time I've attempted to do any sort of filming of modeling and painting, so bear with me. This video didn't turn out perfect, but we will get better as this goes on. I thought it would just be kind of a fun way to break it up so it's not always just me in front of the camera. So if you do like this format, go ahead and let me know in the comments if you think it's just absolutely crazy. You can also let me know that too. Honesty is fine. The reason that we're not talking about, I'm not like walking you through the steps of what I'm doing here, is because my hobby skills, dropped it there. There's the seismic cannon that we're actually going to try and replicate. So there it is for comparison. But my modeling skills are sort of amateurish at best, as well as my painting skills. So I wanted to show it because I want to encourage new players to just be bold and hobby the way they want to. But I don't have a clue what I'm doing, so there's no point in me trying to walk you through it. One thing I noticed though is as you're building your Genestealers, you're probably going to end up with a lot of auto pistols or just other weapons that weren't used, and they all have the gear worm sort of hanging out on them. If you organize your bits, unlike I do, keep those off to the side, because anytime you're doing any conversions or stuff, those come in really handy. For this particular one, which I already built 5 of these, so I kind of have a little bit idea what we're doing. But for these Orlocks, they come in really handy for the belt buckles. I was really happy with the Necromunda kit itself, real quick. There's 2 versions of each model. There's 2 different sprues. Each sprue has 5 models on it. And you can see they're really easy, the instructions to follow. We're not doing the squad leader because we already did that. Tools we're going to need a Citadel brush. It is a knife, so be careful. Be careful. Follow knife safety procedures. There we go. I said it. And then we're also going to need some clippers. Now these are, I bought these fairly recently, a couple months ago. I really like them. They're a little small. I do a lot of work with like power tools and pliers and stuff. So these are quite small and weird in my hand. I realized I had to switch up my grip because I kept trying to pinch. I get my hand pinched in there because I'm clumsy like that. So I ended up having to switch my grip to more of a chopstick style, and it ended up working fine. But yeah, there's the brand there, and I'll throw links in the description to all this stuff. That'll take you over to Amazon. If you purchase any of this stuff through those links, there's a slight chance that the channel will earn a slight commission. This is the kit I started with, just for comparison. These pliers, I built a lot of models with these cutters, like hundreds of them. They worked fine, but you can see they're definitely not as sharp and as pointed as my newer ones here. So I definitely am happy that I've upgraded. It has saved me some headache. But if you're new and you're getting started, this whole kit was like $20, and you get a modeling knife, you get the cutters, you get some files, some extra blades. It's definitely, you get a lot of work out of it for $20. All right, so from this point forward, the video is going to kind of speed up and go into a time-lapse thing because I don't want to be here all day with this, and I don't think you do either. And so we're off to the Myrid Cults. So the first thing we're going to talk about with Myrid Cults is, this is cool. There's a whole different way that this codex is set up versus pretty much every other codex in 9th edition that I'm aware of. Instead of just a list of abilities that replace your named cult stuff, you get a set number of points, and you can spend those points on the 15 different options that are here. Those options are going to cost anywhere from 1 to 4. The 4.1 is just Splinter Cult, so you can run yourself as the Hive Cult and call yourself something else. The rest of them are 1 to 3 points. Now, because we only have about 10 minutes, we're not going to go over every single one of these. So I'm going to talk about what I've been doing matched play, and then what I'm currently running narratively in this campaign. And I say campaign and not crusade because when we started this 4 years ago, crusade wasn't a thing yet. We're about to wrap up sort of part 1 because we're slowly transferring everything over to crusade format. So let's start with matched play. Now, pretty much Myrid Cults is going to start with industrial affinity. That is, each time a model with this creed makes an attack with an industrial weapon on page 107, you can ignore any or all hit roll, ballistic skill, and weapon skill modifiers. If you're playing Myrid Cults and you aren't using industrial affinity, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Industrial affinity is kind of the whole thing why you would take Myrid Cults, because it helps not only your shooting, your Neophytes can now move and shoot their heavy weapons without penalties. It helps in melee. Your Acolytes can use rock cutters and not take any penalties. And there's a number of factions out there that have abilities to worsen ballistic skill or -1 to hits and things like that. And this just ignores, army-wide ignores all of that. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So my Myrid Cult match play starts with that. The next one I usually almost always take is Deep Supplies. This costs 2. Industrial Affinity only costs 1, by the way. If this replicates in a future codex, that is probably going to switch. So the next one I take is Deep Supplies. This is lifted kind of straight out of the bladed cog, but it's each time a unit with this creed is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 wound roll when resolving that unit's attacks. I take this for very much the same reason that I love Industrial Affinity. Every unit in your army is going to benefit from this at some point in the game, and that is not a bad way to spend 3 of your 4 points between those two things, just lifting your whole army up and getting a little bit more consistency in your weapons. Now, the last point, I kind of flip back and forth. If I'm in a mood where I'm running a Patriarch and a Magus, I'll take Synaptic Resonance so that I can re-roll Psychic Test dice rolls of 1 or 2. If I'm only running a Magus or a Patriarch, I'm not running both, then I will usually take Alien Fury, which is each time a unit with this creed piles in or consolidates, models in that unit can move an extra 1. I just like extra movement. I found that it's always useful, and throughout the whole course of a game, it does get you farther. It does add up. Prior to Arcs of Omen, when Armor of Contempt was still a thing, I was gravitating towards Cold Eye Killers. That would be unmodified wound rolls of 6, improve the armor penetration characteristic of an attack by 1. That was really helpful in Armor of Contempt. It's less helpful now, but certainly still a very powerful thing to add on. So there you have it. There's kind of my matched play, what I like to run with. Now, I know Synaptic Resonance isn't like the most efficient thing in the world, but I love the Psychic phase. My other main army is Thousand Suns, so I love the Psychic phase. I love being able to take that Cult Creed as well as the Relic Orb of the Unwilling Eye, and now I just have a super consistent way to cast Maledictions, which I love the Broodmind Discipline Maledictions. I think they're excellent. So that's that. Now, flipping over to narrative. Now, this is the narrative that I'm currently using with one of the players in this campaign. As I said, this started back before Crusade was a thing, and she started as Her cult started as Twisted Helix, but we've reached a sort of critical tipping point in the crusade. She, as a human being who's physically walking this planet, this player has recently discovered that on the day of Ascension, and the Tyranids come and all that good stuff, she discovered what happens after that, and everyone gets, biomass for the hive mind, and she was very upset about this. So she is now trying to worm her way out of that fate by convincing either the Thousand Sons or this troop of Harlequins to help her out. So we've moved away from the Twisted Helix a little bit, and now we're looking at the Myrid Cults. And we started as Twisted Helix just because they're big into bioengineering and all that stuff. So she was never quite a fanatic. She started as Magus. Now we're moving on to, now she's upgraded to a Primus. She's become more of a warrior leader and less of a priestess, hence the upgraded gangers. And you'll see the Neophyte gangers. And then at the end of this video, I swapped an arm on an Inquisitor to make her a Primus. So the cult options we're running here, we're still running Industrial Affinity, right? And we're doing that because as narrative as this campaign is, we still want armies to be competitive on the battlefield, and Industrial Affinity helps with that a lot, especially with these new Neophytes that we're making here. It's going to really suck if these Neophytes can't shoot anything, because every time they move, they got to take -1 of their hits. So Industrial Affinity, once again, for the win. On top of Industrial Affinity, we are still going to take Synaptic Resonance. I know, lame and boring, but we're doing this because this particular narrative is very psychic driven. This Magus was manipulated by the Thousand Sons, manipulated by some Harlequins, so heightened psychic abilities, well within the wheelhouse of what's going on with her as a character. And then for our last 2 points, we're going to take Toxin Agents. Now this is where we really kind of move off the matched play side of things. Toxin Agents is similar to the Twisted Helix stratagem that I love, but no, spell, psychic power, not the stratagem. We don't love the stratagem. Similar to the psychic power, but each time a model with this creed makes a melee attack against a unit, excluding vehicle or monster unit, an unmodified hit roll of 6 automatically wounds the target. It's unfortunate that it has the vehicle or monster rider there. It'd be better if it was just, 6's auto wound, but it does. And the reason we did this is, as I said, there's a Drukhari, Harlequin, Corsair, NPC element that's been floating around this game for 4 years, and her character, this Primus, has now spent some time with these characters, these Drukhari. So I thought we both thought it would be fun if, while in the clutches of these Drukhari, they taught her some poisons, because that's what the Drukhari do, right? So that was the fun little nod to what's been going on in the campaign for the last 4 years, was Toxin Agents. But if you're doing match play, I definitely don't recommend that. Hey, look at that. We have a little bit of time, so we can talk about a couple other things in this book. Now, one of the things I really... So one of these creeds that I thought when I first read this would be more useful would be the Marshal, and that is each time a Crossfire infantry model with this creed makes a ranged attack, unless that model's unit has moved this turn, the target is treated as having a Crossfire marker. I thought that'd be more useful, but as it turns out, as I've discovered throughout playing 9th edition, that if your Genestealer cults aren't moving, they're really just dying. So I decided to not use that one pretty early on. Hey, that seismic cannon looked like it turned out okay. It's not great. The harpoon tip needs some work. We need to rework that. And then we're going to put this coil back on that we cut off from one of the drills, and we're going to put it on the side instead of mounted underneath, just to give it a little bit more of an industrial look to it and make it look a little bit less like a harpoon. Another one that I really like, sometimes depending on the build, if I'm not doing deep supplies, I really like Agile Gorillas, and that's from the Rusted Claw. That is, each time a unit with this creed makes a normal move or advances in your movement phase in the following shooting phase, it counts as having remained stationary. Now, you can't take that and martial. That would be awesome. But, you know, that's my other match play kind of go-to. Agile Guerrillas. But overall, Myrid Cults are super fun. I would love to know what you guys... Now that we're done talking about cults, right? We did all the 6-9 ones. Now we did the Myrid ones. What do you guys think? 2 things for you to add to the comment. What do you think about this format for video? Did you enjoy this modeling stuff going on in the background? And what cults are you running in the Arcs of Omen era? There it is. There's the Primus. Fun stuff. Good times. Good times. That was the easiest kitbash ever. Super clean and easy. Cut off an arm, put a bone sword, call it a Primus. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Astromech Show. Don't forget to subscribe and give it a like, ring the bell for notifications so that you know when more episodes are coming out. And until next week, don't forget, geek your own way.